Stage now, the lovely and our visitor.
Thank you so much.
How's Comic-Con been treating you?
Well, Kalamazoo is a hotel room, a bar, and this place to me. I do wish that I had a moment, other than looking out the bus windows, I do wish I had a moment to investigate because downtown looks beautiful. It really looks lovely. So next time I'll make a day just for that. But beyond that, right now, Kalamazoo and Michigan and this whole area is you guys, and you've been so lovely. It's been so nice to talk to all of you. Really great.
Awesome. Well, I kind of wanted to kick this off with, let's first talk a little bit about Nina before Kira.
All right.
Some of the things you did or some of the things you were kind of hoping to do before she came into your life.
Well, I wanted to be an actor from a very young age, and it's hard to explain to younger people what it was like I came up in the, graduated in 75, went right into, I got into Princeton, but I just started working and I deferred, I think for 4 years, and then went, I'm never going. I'm in my life already, I'm acting. And what was available to me as an actor was the girlfriend, the wife, the dead wife, the girl who's after the husband, who's, it was all, or even kids. I remember I was 25, I was 30, and the kid playing my son was 25. So it's just like, you're in these roles, and it's all performative, and you learn how to be what they expect in Hollywood and in New York where I work. So getting Kira was like blowing open what I could do and what I was allowed to do. And I've said it very often, when I got the script, it was, Major Kira, and she was angry at the lead character, and I called my manager and I said, that was my audition, and I said, I think you've got it wrong, this is a man's role, this isn't, and he said, no, they want a woman. And it was like, oh my God, and I'm not playing an evil character, and I get to be angry, and I get to have all these different emotions. So whatever I thought I wanted to do, Kira just blew it open.
That's an excellent segue because Terry was up on the stage last year, and she's a good friend of yours.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Oh my God, yes.
She was fantastic, and I told her Deep Space Nine was my gateway. That's where I started. When it was time to start watching Star Trek, I'd known about Kirk and stuff already through pop culture. But my husband's like, we're going to start here. It's the best one. Okay, let's do this. And we get into it, and you are a spitfire right out the gate. You're just a firecracker. And I just kind of wonder, what did you know about Kira, and what were you able to shape along the way?
The most important thing was that she was an alien, which meant I didn't have to follow what the culture was saying a woman was like.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in the future, so I could just fill her with everything I ever wanted to show or be, which was full spectrum human. Funny, yes, I know, she wasn't a human, but that's where I got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So that kind of gave you some confidence to really go for it.
It did, and it wasn't so well received back in the day. People were like, why are you acting like that? Why are you always angry? Why? And I wouldn't get into it, but it was like, well, because she's got post-traumatic stress, although I didn't have the words for it then, but she's been through trauma, and she's not trusting, and this is not a situation she believes should happen for Major. So, but yeah, now it's so interesting. People see it in a whole different light because, of course, we've come a little ways, especially with women's roles.
Absolutely.
You know, they're not so citadeled.
Yes, and absolutely, and going through with the rewatch and focusing on you this time. You did so much. You were just a broad range of the things that you could do. You had a number of relationships. You were adversarial. You sang. You did so many things. And
What you don't want to do, and I did it because I wrote a book about the women of Star Trek,
Mhm.
and I went, you know what I've never done? I've never looked to see what people said about the fact that I've had quite a few lovers.
yeah.
And I looked for a little while, and I went, okay, I never need to do that again. Back in the day, it was like, oh no, what? Oh, it was not acceptable for a lead character to have, you know, to just in that way have different lovers. But that was another aspect that was really interesting, and I don't think they got it right until Odo.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Pariah. I really did.
Did you?
I did.
I didn't get Pariah. I just didn't get it. I didn't think Kira would go for the typical good-looking, and they both were. What was his name?
Yeah, they played.
No, the other one that I had, the big blonde guy.
Oh, Shakar.
Shakar.
Yeah.
Gorgeous guys, but it was like, what is it, Kira? And the shapeshifter was just right, because I felt like she fell in love with his soul.
Yeah.
The person, not the
Not the looks.
look.
I could see that. But I could see where these other ones brought out your soft side, or brought out Kira's soft side. Yeah, because she definitely had one, and right out the gate she does not. But she grows into it. What I think a real interesting relationship you did not do was Gul Dukat. Did not do.
Did not do that. No, actually, I remember Ira Stephen Bear, one of our executive producers, saying, so in a script coming up, you're going to have a relationship with Dukat. And I was like, no, never, no. Ira, no. And he's from Brooklyn, and I'm from Manhattan, and when we argued, people thought we were really angry, but that's just how New Yorkers talk. And it was like, absolutely, and finally, he said, okay, all right, but your mother had a relationship with him. And I was like, oh,
No,
just, but yeah, I didn't think Kira would ever, I mean, certainly have a relationship with a Kardashian, sure, just not him.
I think you would have lost something
I think
to
so.
her character.
I
It wouldn't
think
have
so,
been
too.
believable.
No.
And I'm actually glad they didn't go the Kardashian route, because I think she was still, I mean, she was developing professional relationships. She could talk with them and not spit in their face anymore.
Right.
But
She made that growth.
she made the growth.
Yeah.
And that's what made her one of the greatest characters of growth on that show, I felt. One of my favorite things, most interesting arc I think you had, was when you were pregnant on set. I thought, wow, I mean, it was really, you're not hiding behind a vase. You're not sitting behind a desk in a chair, oh, you know, I'm gonna sit here for 2-3 months. So how did that process go about? Like, did you find out and then you're like, well, this is what we're doing?
Well, I found out, and I thought, I'm fired, because I did. I really thought I was not going to be kept, or at the very least, I would be diminished, and it didn't happen. It was so great. Again,
All right, Grand Rapids Comic-Con. Just a quick heads up, Megan Walsh will be leaving today at 3 p.m. Make sure you head on over to her table to get those autographs before she leaves forever. 3 p.m. is when she's leaving today, folks.
But wait,
not right now.
right now.
Ira's wife, Laura, who is a physicist and a ballerina, which is the weirdest combination, but she's both. She was the one who said, shuttlecraft accident, and then she doesn't have to hide as the reason for my pregnancy. And that was brilliant.
And a woman's idea.
And a woman's idea. Yep. And I could just go on with life. It was great.
That It was fantastic. It was such a great story, and it kind of got to play into the struggles of working and being pregnant, and you kind of got to
It did, and
bring that to the light.
everyone was so great to me on set about it. I was not great to myself
Yeah.
because I felt so worried about not getting in, not making it you get tight to a crew and to the people you're working with, and when 16 hours is your shortest day, and those crew members are there every single day, I would think, nah, the camera guy's gotta get home to his kids. I don't wanna do anything that makes the day longer. And I was so self-conscious about not taking time, not taking space. I think I overdid that.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for myself well enough when I was pregnant and working those long hours.
Yeah. What does your son think about that?
Both of them, I have two sons. One was an infant when I started, and then Buster, and Django was in '96. And I remember we were still filming, and they had the channel changer, and they were going through looking for stuff. They said, oh, there's Mama. They had no interest, because they would be on the set all the time, so they'd see it, there.
Yeah.
And I know, when Alexander Siddig joined Game of Thrones, I was watching Game of Thrones all the time, and then when he was on, it's like, oh, now it's ruined. You can't buy the, so I know how they felt.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
some of the magic's probably gone.
Yeah.
So I started watching early 2000s, so this is, take you there, Netflix discs. Remember when those were shipped to your house, Netflix discs?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I watched the documentary, What We Left Behind, and I was floored by some of the things they were saying. Like, the series was not liked at all at first. It's not Star Trek and this and that. I'm like, am I missing something? Like, I felt like your show was it fit in the 90s quirk kind of thing. Like, I'm a big Twin Peaks fan, so it got a little weird, it got a little supernatural, and it fits with X-Files. I'm like, what? I feel like you either wrote this to another fan, or they don't get it.
Well, every single show, and I've interviewed a lot of people at this point, and every single show, there's someone who says, this is not my Star Trek. Now they've jumped the shark, this is not Star Trek. So they said that for Next Generation, they said it for our show, but our show was different, and we weren't, first of all, we were serialized, which makes it really different. If you miss a show, you're kind of going, well, what just happened, what I missed? And we made the journey, it was more relational and more personal growth kind of journey, this kind of journey, as opposed to the journey outwards. And if you were just looking for, a less complicated thought, it may have been overwhelming for people. Although people seem to accept it much better now, and it's also great for streaming.
Yes.
Because you can watch these arcs happen. So Netflix was great for that, especially during the pandemic. I remember looking on X, formerly known as Twitter, and seeing someone post, DS9 is trending. Why? And it was because it was like a perfect show to go, okay, I never watched that back in the day. Let's see what this is about, and people loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the show wrapped and you're done, you're not doing your every day, who was like the first person you missed that you're like, I don't get to see this person now?
No one. I got to see all of them. I kept up with all of them. We had Sunday dinners that, people came to. I still had lunch with Michael Dorn all the time. Terry Farrell, before she moved, we did walks every week in the hills. Yeah. At Alexander Siddig, luckily, we co-parent, so that's a wonderful experience. Avery's the only one no one sees. Haven't heard from him, he disappeared. And of course, Renee and Aaron are deeply missed.
Yes, absolutely.
Deeply missed. I knew for a couple of years about Renee, but Aaron was a complete
Right.
shock, just a
Like,
shock.
definitely. So what do you, in your opinion, where do you think Kira went after that show? What would you have liked to have seen for her?
I would have liked to have seen another arc, something happen where she drops out and then comes back. I know that she's supposed to be a Kai. I don't know that I really like that unless she's taken changed the Bajoran spirituality a bit. I don't know. Especially since I know how many crooked Kais there were. So it's like, well, we got it, maybe she, I don't know, revolutionized it and got it, great again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you watched Picard at all, I do like the arc that Rafi had. I thought that was really interesting. And I would like to, because we all have dips and dives and jumps and leaps in our lives. I would like to seen Kira do something like that.
Absolutely. Like, I know the documentary said that they kind of saw her going in a Vedic direction. But like, I don't know. But I
Yeah.
don't see that. She's too,
Yeah.
she would still just want to be out there in the midst of everything. And I think that would have limited her.
I think so too.
So we're going to start lining up for questions, if you guys want to come up here. And just one more thing before we go into that. Let's talk about Women of Star Trek. Let's talk about your book. That is
Open
so
a channel.
exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited by it, and I got such an opportunity to talk to not just the women and the writers, but the audience members. And oh my God, there are so many extraordinary people, not just women, who got inspiration from Star Trek. It made me understand how important storytelling is, and how important there was a chaplain who said to me, an army chaplain, who said to me what she learned from Star Trek was to have hope, courage, and to remember that you are never alone. And she said when she goes onto a battleground and she's comforting people who are dying, she keeps that in her mind, that we are never alone. And I went, yeah, that's what I not only got from the show, but from this unique relationship we all have, that there's a frequency that we join when we all talk Star Trek, and we start there. There's a way in to this community always, and I love that.
And that's in October, right?
October it's being published, and it's called Open a Channel. Yep. I'll be starting an Instagram account where there's so many interviews that didn't make it into the book. I'll be reading some of those too, so to give people as much as I possibly can about some of the extraordinary people I got to meet and talk to.
I cannot wait. All right, let's bring up our first question. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Scott. I'm a co-host of a Star Trek podcast called TrekCast. First I just want to say thank you for coming to Kalamazoo to the Grand Rapids Comic-Con. And I wanted to thank you for everything you brought to the arts and to this wonderful series that we all love. And I just want to say on behalf of TrekCast, and I think I speak for everybody in this room, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I was here last year when Jeffrey Combs and Terry Farrell were here, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked them, because your name came up when I asked them this question, and you just mentioned something about getting together for dinner, and I was wondering about getting together for dinner, who was the best cook? When I asked Terry Farrell this question, your name came up.
So sweet. Well, John Delancey and his wife are coming next weekend for dinner, and I think that I don't know if I give him the edge. We're right there together. John is a wonderful cook, really wonderful, as is his wife. So that's really, I'm gonna be teaching his wife how to make these meringue mushrooms. They look exactly like mushrooms, but they're made out of meringue, and it's like a classic thing to do.
Can you post that recipe on
It's really, really long, it's really long, but you can look it up. What's her name? There's a chef who makes them. But look up mushroom meringues, and it's just getting the feel of working with them, and they're beautiful. I'll try to find a picture of my mushroom meringue. Actually, I'll take a picture and post it next weekend when I make them with her. Yeah.
Thanks again.
Okay, you're welcome.
It's such an honor to see you. I can't believe you're here.
Thank you.
I mean, you must have been the toughest female character in all time. I mean, you got stabbed by a Klingon and you didn't even, I mean, it was just like it's a flesh wound.
Did you notice that? That was an important moment for me. That was really important because I wanted to make it realistic, and sometimes in a fight the adrenaline is going so you don't feel it.
Right.
So you just keep going. It might drop you because they hit a nerve, but otherwise you just keep going. So I love that you noticed that.
I always think about that, and then, you know, you see Dax and Worf, they would have these, they would spar on the holodeck. And I said, and I saw you beat up Damar, and I'm like, do you think that you could have taken Worf?
So let me tell you, Casey Biggs, who played Damar, hated that moment. I mean, hated it. So whether or not Kira could have taken on Worf, Michael Dorn would never have allowed it. Never.
Well, I'm going to die and ask you that, and the only other thing is, okay, Picard, they keep bringing these old characters back, and I mean, they have to do the show again. They have to bring the show back. I mean, is there any possibility? What do fans have to do to get the show back?
Well, you're the people who make a lot of things happen and always have, including, you know, the third season of the original Star Trek. I mean, you have an effect, and that's really all it is. But I don't know. If Paramount is in flux, it's being bought, the shows are going to different, I don't know.
I mean, it's just hanging there because, I mean, you say Cisco, he may not want to come back, but he said at the end they were coming back.
I know.
So,
Voiceover in an orb, we open the orb and it talks. You know, we can stay at home and just record it.
again, it's such an honor. I can't believe I'm so happy to have met you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'd love to see Chirac head as well. I would love to see that.
Hi.
Hi again.
I'm Katie, and I just appreciate all the work you did with Kira as an amazing role model for people like me. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Katie.
And I was wondering, I'm looking forward to your book so much. Was there anything putting together that book that surprised you that you might not have thought of when you were coming together and getting all these interviews and everything?
What surprised me really was how much it shifted me, and how many times I found that my thinking in terms of being a woman was like dinosaur times. I didn't notice how much in a box I was put and how well I stayed there for most of my life. Now, Kira, I did come out and do it. That felt like a safe place to do it. But I was talking to for God's sakes, the astronaut, fighter pilot, engineer, mother of 2 children under 5 at the time, Samantha Cristoforetti, and she came to my home to be interviewed, and she was just going up to be in the space station, which she ended up commanding. And I asked her, makes me cringe now, I said, wait, so you're going up for months? Who's taking care of your children? And she looked at me and went, my husband. They're his children. And it was like, because I'm so used to the children, the tone of the house, the food, the this, of having that be my realm and my job, as well as my job, that it didn't even cross my mind, well, yeah. And from then I went to my husband and I said, Matthew, wait. Now, when I'm in the kitchen, I'm not going to ask you to help me in the kitchen. we're doing 20 minutes in the kitchen together. Because helping means it's my job and you're deigning to be in there with me. And he went, yeah, I got it, that makes total sense. And that's how we do it now. So there were little tiny shifts, that's actually a huge shift for me. But those shifts surprised me. The effect of what a lot of women know, if you see it, you can be it, how often that came up. The fact that they saw a woman allowed to get angry and she didn't get fired, that they saw women being engineers, that they saw a woman having command of a ship, gave them license to dream big. And I heard it over and over and over again. And just a woman's thought about herself being interrupted for a moment, going, wait a minute, doesn't have to be like that. But anytime a woman's thought is interrupted, so is a man's. And he goes, wait a minute, doesn't have to be like this for me either. I don't have to play a role. I can be who I am and bring everything I'm actually good at.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie.
Hi, I'm Aubrey. I met you yesterday, or Friday morning. I just wanted to ask, what was probably one of your favorite memories being on set and like doing DS9 and like I really like one of my big reasons I went back and watched DS9 was seeing you then on lower decks in that interaction with Shax because I knew you guys were in that Kira and Shax were in the same resistance cell in the Bajoran resistance, and like that was probably like, my big reason I went back and watched it because I would have had early memories of seeing my dad watch TNG and DS9. So that's a big reason I got into Star Trek and I got back into Star Trek.
I have a lot of wonderful memories. I mean, being an actor and being allowed to do not just Kira, but you know, really James Bond kind of character with a bad Russian accent and playing the intendant and all, it was like Disneyland. I got to do so much. And there's nothing like spending hours and that. Renee used to say, we actually spend more time together than we did with our own families. And becoming that tight and having the relationship go beyond the show, because we'd go to Europe together and plan trips around a convention, you know, or traveling and catch up and let's have dinner. Those are really long-term, deep relationships. And I have them with some of the writers too, who I deeply, deeply respect. If you haven't seen Ron Moore's For All Mankind, highly recommend it. Highly, highly recommend that show. And my son Django told me, you're gonna love this show. I watched the first 2 episodes, I said, not for me. He said, keep watching. And he was absolutely right. Oh my God. So if you're looking for something to watch, watch that.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
The hell with the recipe, can you just send me one of your meringue mushrooms? That would be ideal.
Yes,
Picking
it
the
would
stuff
be,
up.
as long as it's not raining, and they work really well.
I'll stop by and I'll bring Tupperware, it'll be fine. So I had 2 interrelated DS9 questions and a book question. And pretty much everyone knows it was mentioned that DS9 was not well loved during its first run.
That's right.
My 2 questions are, I'll start with, can you pinpoint a time period or an event that when that tipping point came where it's like, oh, Deep Space Nine isn't out of place in the Star Trek universe, in our universe. It seemed to be like its own thing out of space and time in general in pop culture for a while.
Yeah.
Anything that,
I'd say about 10 years ago, the tipping point was a 15-year-old boy. Sorry, the tipping point was a 15-year-old boy who came up for a picture at a convention, and I'm guessing he was 15. He was around there, and he said, "I have such a crush on your character." And I was like, "What?" A young man. But a young man having a crush on my angry character, who, you know, is not the typical, you know, cutesy. And that was like, oh, we're finally catching up with the time. He's seen other women be like this, and it's okay now. And that's true for the whole show. And certainly when you can stream it, binge watch it, you start to get it in a whole different way. It really should have always been seen that way. So, yeah, I'd say 10. When did they start streaming it? Was it 10 years? I'm so bad with linear time.
I just the products set me down wherever they want.
That's right. But that's really the time that there was a huge shift and people really started to love it.
I mean, I think you could arguably say time caught up with Deep Space Nine in a way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, society, we were the idiots. But anyway, the second part, was there any particular actor or character that got the most hate? Like, yeah, you say you talked about casting for your extra friends, which warms my heart to no end, but were there any that seemed to be disproportionately targeted for negative fan reaction? You were like, you really
That
were
was
the,
me.
I figured you'd be in the top couple, but I wondered if there's anyone else that,
No,
like,
that-
they all like pretty much acknowledge that.
Me.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Last question about the book. Were you tempted, or did you do any of the interviews as your Keanu character? Did you ever take it from that perspective to do an interview through that lens?
Oh, that would have been so interesting. That would have been really interesting, but no, I was just so grateful that these women gave their time and not just, and people, like I interviewed people in Germany and England on the ship, the cruise, which if you've never taken it, it's a blast. It's really a blast. And hours and hours and hours of interviews. And I so wanted to make sure I was, you know, being careful with their time and their effort. But that would have been really interesting. I could write it all from her perspective, but it would probably be too tough on everybody.
Just do a little DLC downloadable content or something.
Yeah.
An addendum
Little
to it later
addendum.
on, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I had today. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much. Hey.
Keith from Kalamazoo. Again, it was great to meet you. I was absolutely starstruck yesterday, but I finally have probably a good question anyway. But because DS9 was so serialized, right, and it was unusual at that time to have a story where, like, you know, if you didn't, you know, tune in last week, you didn't know what was going on.
Right.
How they approached the villains in the show was completely different to every other Star Trek show, and so like. And the thing that I noticed on rewatches over the last, you know, 20 years or whatever is that you and Avery are the ones that were pitted against the three biggest villains in that show. And so Mark Limo, Casey Biggs, and Louise Fletcher. And those actors were so great in those roles, but I have to wonder, like, what was it like you being basically the focus, or your character being the focus of kind of like
A lot of
basically
hate.
all of the evil in the show?
Yeah.
Was you and Avery, and all in a way almost more you than Avery, in that like you had to do all of these crazy scenes with Mark Limo as basically one of the worst human, you know, or Cardassians on the show ever.
Yeah.
And if there was something in particular that was memorable about those, because he came off as such a skis, and then there were points in the show where you're like, did he change? And then your character never varied from he is not better. He's always who he is.
Yeah.
But if there was something from shooting those scenes with those villains, and that you being the focal point of that, if there was an intent from the writers to put you into that position.
I think there was very little that they did that didn't have real intention behind it. And of course, for me, it was like gold. First of all three of those actors can hit. I mean, they are unbelievable actors. So just having any kind of scene with an actor like that is amazing. But then to have it be so complicated and complex, and it's not black and white, it's gray, and, you know, Kira did wrong things too. It was joyful. And Louise was one of the sweetest people in the world. She had the most delightful laugh, a little bit like yours. It was so sweet. And we'd be laughing and stuff off stage about something, and she would just, her laughter just rolled, and then we'd get in the scene and she just would boom, like an iron curtain coming down. I was like, okay, I'm scared. She would instantly, and of course, they are the ones that move my character, because I had to go from going, hey, I'll just fight people, and I'll just be angry, and I'll use my physical force, to going, oh, this is politics. I can't do that anymore. I have to move up to my prefrontal cortex. This is a chess match, and I gotta play. I gotta learn how to play. And because of them, my character had to move.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Shakespearean level villains over
Yeah,
7
really.
seasons was really good.
Thank you so much. Fair is fair.
Yeah. I'm Izzy, I'm Keith's daughter. We watched the show together when I was a teenager, and we talked to you lots about that, and that, you know, like, waiting for that moment since I was 16, and it exceeded every expectation I had. So much love and gratitude for that. I think the question that I had was, as an actor, as a person, as Kira, was there a moment in the show where either you or the writers were struggling with this choice and you weren't sure if it was like going to, like questioning, is this the right move for Kira? Is this, you know, who she is this her character? And you having a moment of doubt about that, and then you pulled it off and it was great. And, you know, like, does that make sense? Because I know there's that
No, it
story
does.
with Terry about like not being able to match Avery Brooks' old man. And having to, you know, like, have that moment of struggle as an actor, as a person, and, you know, like, how do I make this work in this character? And that relationship was so beautiful, and they pulled that off excellently. And so I wanted to ask you that kind of question.
I was so wanting to play a complicated character. I so wanted the opportunity to make a mistake as the entity that I was, and have the opportunity to learn better, that there was nothing that they could do. The only thing and as I said, I fought Ira on it, was an emotional relationship with Ducat. I couldn't see that would have been a betrayal of so many of her ethics.
Yeah.
And that would have been, I mean, I would just think of a human in my time that I've heard of who was as evil as Ducat, and I go, no. So not gonna. So yeah, that's the only time. The rest of it, it was like, yeah, give it to me. Let me do all of it.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Izzy. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming here. I guess my question is kind of a two-parter. After Star Trek, did you feel like it was really hard to move into a different kind of role? Or did you feel like you were bringing your character into a different role if you did anything afterwards?
Kira is like a place that I can drop into and be again. After 7 years, so much of me is in there, and she changed me. She totally shifted me. Because, you know, our brains, our synapses grow from having the same thought dropped in over and over and over again. We change our brains. We know that now from neuroscience. And some of her ethics and strengths, I inherited without knowing it, just thinking that way over and over again. So, yeah, I'm gonna bring some of that no matter what, I think, unless it's a real character role, which is fun to play. But I never worried about doing that. And I do feel like I'll never play a character with that depth again. I mean, I don't expect to. If I get to, I'm incredibly lucky. But I'm already lucky that I got to play that.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, this includes old series, new series, movies, and old and new movies. I was just wondering what your favorite Star Trek was to watch.
You know what I love? I love Strange New Worlds. I think they do such a great job. Really, a great job of just blending all of it and standalone. It's definitely not what we were doing, but they managed to do everything a lot. And I admire them very much.
I'm not literate. Is Strange New World like the newest one? Or?
Yes, watch it. See what you think. It's really fun.
Thank you.
You bet. Hello.
Hi. You've spoken a lot today about the range of Kira and what you were able to do, and I definitely saw that growing up and watching Deep Space Nine and seeing the arc that Kira goes through. And you talked also about the moment, the one moment where you rejected something. But I'm wondering, as an actor, what did you do in all that Kira was being put through to center her and keep Kira a consistent character, because she very much was, no matter what she was going through. So what was, as an actor, what was it that kept her centered like that?
Figuring out how she thought. How she thought of herself and how she thought of others. What was her purpose? What did she see her purpose as? And I think that was my guiding light for this character. And she was and that's how I played the intendant, by flipping that. She was open and vulnerable and unprotected in the way when it came to other people. Her purpose was this strong compassion for others, especially the Bajoran people. And that's, I think, what kept her consistent.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Laura from Charlotte. I was back in the 90s. There was a book called The Nitpicker's Guide to Deep Space Nine.
You know it.
I know it. And the author said that if we ever met you at a convention, we should ask you about the milk bath in the first crossover episode.
Yeah, so the milk bath that I was in, so obviously I was supposed to look like I was the intendant and I was taking a bath, and it should look very sexy and luxurious, and the water's milky, thank goodness. And so I was wearing these awful cups, that you do, and I got in the bath and they made it warm, which was great, but and it was scented, which was very nice. Didn't expect that. All right, that's good. But the cups, which are put on with a certain kind of glue, kept coming off, and I was like, okay, wait, give me a towel. These are coming off, okay. And I put them back on. And I asked one of the guys who had done the bath, the crew, I said, what's in the bath? My glue isn't holding. And he said, oh, we put orange oil in there. And then I asked my makeup artist, what do you take these things off with? She said orange oil.
Very grateful to be able to do that.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Hello.
Hi. Can I ask you a Hollywood question, or should we keep it on topic?
No, Hollywood.
What does making it mean to you? Isn't that just steady work? Like you had a lot of guest spots in the 80s, so would that be making it, or is it like the beloved, you love a role, and you're like, yes, this is it?
I had a thought when I was young of what making it was, and I pretty much kept to it. And I was like a middle-class actor, because I hopped from show to show, did some series, did this, did that. That doesn't really exist so much anymore. It's really, the business has changed a lot, and it's hard for people to, make a living, a life out of hopping around like that. So I'm sorry for young actors right now. It's much harder. But I always thought I would have made it if I had the respect of my colleagues. And that they would go, yeah, I want to do a scene with you. Yeah, I want to work with you sometime. And I think it's pretty much still that. That's making it to me. And working with people who can hit, that's the biggest joy. It's, 3 minutes at a time in amongst a business that's hierarchical, unfair, biased in many ways, and imperfect, as most systems are. But those 3 minutes at a time.
Very, very illuminating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Greg Alexander Kalamazoo. Thank you for coming to our little town.
Thank you.
I have about 1,000 things I could ask you, but I'll keep it to 2 to be respectful. Well, first one more to say. I wanted to tell you how inspiring I found your interview on Investigates.
Thank you.
It blew my mind. You're so strong, and I love you for that.
Thank you. I actually have a TEDx talk that I think is coming out next week that features how Kira helped me recover. So, yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
And my actual question is, you mentioned earlier about Renee and Aaron. Could you give us your favorite Aaron movie?
Aaron was, are there children here? Aaron was a pain in the ass. A giant one, and I loved him. He would come up on stage if I was doing one of these things and just sit down and start talking and do it. He was everywhere all at once. And for being more on the diminutive side, he filled the room. And he was loving and open and supportive and really a beautiful soul. And just before he died, I had told him a quote that listening is leaning forward with the gentle intention of maybe being changed by what you hear. That's real listening, and that's how me.
All right, Grand Rapids Comic-Con, special announcement.
I'm
If
really
you
changed
stop
by this.
Demetrius Harrison's booth. He is doing a raffle around 3:30, $10 a ticket. He is giving away a Loungefly Stormtrooper backpack and also a Stormtrooper Funko Pop.
Ooh. I'm being changed right now.
I'm about to take something.
But that's my favorite Aaron Eisenberg story, that he just really always connected and listened and wrote things down and was constantly growing and changing. He was a delight.
Thank you. Your audience.
Hello again.
Hey.
How are you?
Martin, good, how are you?
Oh, I remember my name, I'm gonna die now. Okay. Really short question and a little bit longer one. The first one is, has anyone researched and confirmed that of all the Star Trek characters ever, you had the most different hairstyles?
Right, when we were winding down, they gave us a lunch and they did this video to say goodbye. And one sequence was just pops of all my different hairstyles. I think Kate went through a lot too, but she finally said no more. And I just kept going, yeah, what if we do this? Yeah, I never stay the same.
When we were all young men, we crushed on Kira, right? And I was like, every week's like, well, her hair changed again. What happened? I like the old one. Then we started to like the new one, and then be another one, and it was always changing. So I didn't know how much you like that. The second thing was to change from Star Trek. I watched Battlestar Galactica as it came out, and all of a sudden you're just on the screen. And I'm like, what's Major Kira doing here? Can you talk a little bit about how that all happened, how you got that scene? Because it's interesting, you're playing this soul and a vision, and it's not like a character of Battlestar Galactica, but you're in Battlestar Galactica. So
Right.
if you could just talk about that a little bit.
Well, I love all the writers of our show. I have deep respect for them, and with good reason. They did some incredible things, and I'm a fan of Ron D. Moore's. And when he called and said, hey, would you do this? Because this is a tricky scene, and they know that I'll go deep fast. And there's so little time to get into, especially if it's a traumatized character, to get in, fast. It's what's necessary. And so he asked me to do it, and it's like, yep, I'll be right there. Any of them call me, I'll be right there.
Had you watched the show at all before you just came right into it?
I just came right into it. Michael Piller asked me to do a series in New Mexico. We moved to New Mexico for 6 years, and I did that. It's like, whenever they call, I'll go. I don't even need to look at the script. I know it will be good.
All right, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right, our next question.
How do you do? It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to circle back to something that was discussed a little earlier, which is the Deep Space Nine not being received terribly well when it first premiered sometimes by the Star Trek fans, and that's a little difficult to believe because it's ultimately, when you think about it, it's the show that sort of validates all of the other ones in a way, because it's the show that tests the mettle of the ideals of the Federation and Starfleet, and
It's how we get there.
exactly
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And ultimately, one of the reasons I love the show so much is one of the messages of it is it proves that the ideals of Star Trek are worth believing in, that they it holds water. And my question is, was that something that was necessarily apparent to you and the rest of the cast and the people working on the show? Maybe in hindsight it's easier to see those things, but did you recognize that while you were working on the show?
Speaking for myself, I recognized how important it was, and I knew from going to conventions that there were a certain number of people that really needed what we were doing. I remember a much older woman pulling up her sleeve and showing me the numbers on her arm and going, your character means a lot to me. And so I understood, and it's so interesting, so many of us take on the responsibility of that and understand that storytelling isn't just any storytelling. Sometimes storytelling can be about comfort, and sometimes Star Trek can be about comfort, but sometimes it's on a different level, and it's storytelling that can be healing or can tell people, I'm not the only one who's who's gone through stuff, or there's a way to, you know, have post-traumatic growth after a difficult time. And I got to see that, but I didn't think that it would ever be taken in by larger groups as it is now.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Great questions.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Open a Channel is out in October. We can see you on Instagram at Mama Nana.
Yes, you can.
And just one real quick, yes or no? If you can, in a Picard way or some other way, if they say, we want Kira back, are you coming back?
Yes.